Thank you for joining me today. My name is Siki Giunta. I work for HCLTech. I am the EVP for Cloud Technology and Services and Offering, and I have a tremendous panel with me today. So first of all, we're going to go around the panel. So I will follow you as I see you. So I have Lori, I have Kelley, I have Shauna, I have Kimberly, Michelle, and Wajeeha. And so I'll call you. So if you could introduce yourself, and then we start the answer a question. Laura, to you first.
Wonderful. Thank you. My name is Laura Young-Shehata. I'm the Vice President of Applications and Platforms for Ascension Health. We're based out of St. Louis. I'm also a mother of 5 and grandmother to 7. So I think that's important to call that out when we talk about the whole person. That's also part of my introduction.
It's a lot of beating heart. Kelley.
Hi, I'm Kelley Moore. I'm the System Vice President of Sourcing for CommonSpirit Health. And I know Laura Young-Shehata from a prior life. I am a mother of 2, a grandmother of none so far, but I'm hoping to be there soon one day.
Shauna Beland. I work at Boston Scientific as head of digital workplace and user experience. I also am a mom of 3 kids, and I reside in Massachusetts at our headquarters in Marlborough.
Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Floss from PepsiCo, Senior Director over Cloud Enablement, which includes 3 functions. Cloud Platform Enablement, which is all of our cloud native projects that we're building from scratch, our Global Cloud Migration Initiative out of our data centers, and our FinOps program for cloud financial management and optimizing cost. I'm also a mom. I have 2 college kids as we speak, one going off to college for the first time, and the other one's a junior. So I'm about to be an empty nester, which will be new for me.
Hi, I'm Michelle Griffith. I run our global security governance, risk, and compliance programs, as well as our business information security officer program. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm also a mom. I have a 9 and 11-year-old boys who keep me very busy going from one sporting event to another. So great to be here today.
Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Wajeeha Shuttari. I am the Senior Vice President at the Council for Affordable and Quality Healthcare. Its headquarters are in Washington, D.C. I'm located in Chicago, Illinois. Fortunately, I get to work from home as I have 3 young kids under the age of 9, and I am a soccer mom as well.
I want to talk about the major contribution that women brings to the workplace and why they're important. So Laura, if you can kick us up, and then whoever wants to contribute, I will moderate, and then we go to the next questions and so on and so on. Laura, to you.
Wonderful, thank you. As Kelley mentioned, we've worked with each other in previous life, and so when I jumped on this morning, I was like, oh my gosh, Kelley, and I was able to text and say, hey, we're on a panel together. And I think that in itself is the crux of women in the workplace, and what we can provide is a network of, and I call it a posse, right? You're always reaching out for women that can help you both in the professional perspective, but also in the personal. There's aspirations. There may be times where you're riding high and things are great, but there's also times where you may be in the bathroom crying your eyes out and you need someone to help you with a solution. And I think that part of women bring a level of empathy that you may not get from our counterparts. I love working with men as well. As you said, there's 50% of the population is men. But the diversity that comes from having and knowing that you've got someone who has your back. And I think that's the important part of what women bring to leadership.
I love that answer. And I think if we repeat it to the young women all the time, it does create a sense of comfort and confidence. Kelley, Shauna, anybody else that wants to contribute to what it is the differentiator of women in a working place?
I think diversity, has to become the norm, not only from a male-female perspective, but multicultural as well. And so I'm thinking about it from a, product and service perspective, meaning in order to strive, we're global, right? We're a world with different races, with different perspectives. So that diverse thought is so important in the workplace. Absolutely inspiring younger generations. But women, let's face it, scientifically, our brains are wired differently. We are, voracious talkers and creativity and collaboration. And so again, when I think about it from a product and service perspective, it's so essential to have all that amalgamation of different perspectives from cultures, and again, men and women, in order to bring the best services and products that we can, have for each other.
And I think that's the best definition of diversity. I think that when people think diversity, they only think at the aspect of people. I just think that exactly what you said, the synapses in the brains are all different. That's why we have so many genetic codes and everything. So it's not just the way we look, is what's in the brain is diverse, and I love that definition of diversity. Kimberly, do you want to contribute too? So what's your point of view?
I was thinking of two things specifically, right? I think the soccer mom was already mentioned once, and being a soccer mom as well, all the way from preschool up through college now, college soccer mom, and a groupie following those teams, right? We bring a unique perspective with respect to balancing the sports and the parent-teacher conferences and participating in the parties and everything else that we tend to do, which requires a lot of multitasking specifically. And then I think the other point is representing CPG company, right? Consumer packaged goods. When you look at the target market, at least for us, right? Women are a significant portion of our target market in terms of buying our products. And I recall reading some articles somewhere specifically about cars as well, right? That a lot of the car making decisions in terms of purchasing a car come from the female side of the house. And I have no reference from a healthcare perspective. I know several of you are from the healthcare industry, so I don't know that perspective with respect to healthcare, but having appropriate representation, both male, female, as well as diversity in terms of who's buying products, whatever it is you happen to be selling, is important so that you can really represent the needs of everybody and really try to increase your market share.
Great answer too. Buying power, and that's an important point. That's increasingly an important item. And that's why I think industry and enterprises are starting to think, we need this different point of view and everything. In travel too, Michelle. I'm sure, every time we have to go someplace, my partner says, so have you done the travel? And I say, I'm not a travel agency, honey. I don't work for them. But that must be another industry where...
Yes, I totally agree, and I think at looking to what makes a good leader, and that there's more than, and I think to Kimberly and Shauna's point, I think problem solving is a really unique capability of a mother, right? We're faced with problems every day that we have to solve on the fly while we're walking out the door to go to work and have 10,000 other things on our mind. But I think there's a psychological and emotional aspect to being a great leader. It's how do you motivate people? Are you empathetic? Are you understanding when someone needs flexibility? Do you make it so that your team wants to come and show up every day and give it their all? And I think women are particularly empowered to provide that perspective as moms, because we do it every day.
So what do you think enterprises really need to do to attract this different type of talent?
It's a great question. And, not only am I in the tech sector, but I'm in information security, which has even fewer females, just historically. So I think one of the first things to do is just understand the data in your groups, right? So it depends on how big your organization is, but do you have female representation, and looking at the data across maybe a large team to see what it looks like. And then I think categorizing it into, if we have women, do we have them in leadership roles? Are they people leaders? Do we have them in senior leadership roles where they can influence? And I think first, just understanding what your landscape looks like from sort of a diversity perspective. I think the other thing that's been very helpful for me, being in a completely male-dominated industry my entire career, is I've been forced to think outside the box. There's like 1 million to 2 million open information security roles globally, and so there's not enough people with the certification and degrees to hire into these roles. So I've been forced to think outside the box. Who are people who have good problem-solving capabilities that I've seen in other roles? Are they able to, do they have good relationships? Can they think about things from a process level and then maybe go to a subject matter expert when it comes to something more technical to get advice and expertise? One example is I've hired a procurement person to come take over my third-party security risk program. She has relationships with a lot of the stakeholders we need to evaluate that, and understands risk, just not at a security level, but we're able to train them up. So I do think that for me, it's always been, I've been able to stand out being a female in it. It's never been something that stood in my way. I think I actually was accelerated over my career because I was a female. Because I think a lot of men that I work with want female representation in leadership. They want the perspective. They want to make sure that they've got some level of diversity. I think that, and just making sure we're targeting schools and universities to encourage females that they can do it. This does not have to be a male-dominated industry, and as long as women have the confidence to jump in and understand they can do it, I think we'll start to see more females, infiltrate that area.
Great point. So Wajeeha, what's your point of view on this?
I think, technology is responsible for solving business problems. And a lot of the problems that we see today, I can speak from a healthcare perspective. They're not new problems. When we have challenges with healthcare, we've been hearing about them for the last 40, 50 years. Some of the issues related to affordability and quality. It takes resilience and commitment to wanting to solve those problems. And I think that's where, we talk a little bit about the strengths of women in leadership. And I think it's important that, we make sure that women in technology roles are trying to solve some of the biggest problems and challenges that we have in our industries today. We've thought about solving these problems before. For some reason, there's been roadblocks. It requires a new, diverse way of thinking and collaborating and bringing people together. And women tend to have more of that transformational leadership style to do that.
Thank you. That's important.
Siki, if I
Preparation.
could jump in.
Yes, Laura.
Yeah, I would say if I could jump in, coming from leading applications and platforms. And so, when I tell people there's two sides to IT, there's the infrastructure and then there's hardware, software. Now, Michelle mentioned there's a lot more than that when you get into cybersecurity, et cetera. But really, if you kind of look at the core side of that, within healthcare, we've done a lot of recruiting clinicians. And so when you start to look at, there's STEM type programs, and there's coding and there's engineering, but you also can start to train all types of people, whether that be women or men, on how do you help the end user, and how do you can train those skills. I actually, at this point in time on my team, and I've got 450 people on my team, 67% of them are women. And that was recruiting from traditional roles that maybe they became to be unsatisfied as a nurse or a lab tech or a rad tech, et cetera. And so whether there's lots of personality studies that are out there, whether it be Myers-Briggs or Real Colors or et cetera, and understanding and knowing how people think, you get a true engineer mind, and that's very analytical, and you get a true clinician, and that's very empathetic. But if you bring those two together, you get a much stronger team delivering, especially in the healthcare space, to understand what the consumers experience at the bedside.
So one of the things that I think is important when it comes to the tech sector is that I think we've talked about diversity and feeling inclusive and the whole equality. And a lot of organizations, I know CommonSpirit's one of many, really focus on that diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that and women tend to, I believe, to be drawn towards that because we are the mothers, we are the nurturers. And so we tend to focus more on that. What I see sometimes is that is not necessarily recognized. So I think what's important is that organizations truly support those inclusion type initiatives and they recognize them and the individuals that participate, as well as ensure that work that they're doing is recognized so that they don't become overworked and it just becomes more of a burden.
Yeah, and that's, sometimes it's very hard to have it front of mind, that type of priority about, let's get every point of view and every aspect. And that's why I think I love, Laura and yours answer that we bring. I mean, healthcare is such a huge requirement for living. You can't live without healthcare. There are a lot of things you can live without, but I'm not sure I could live without a healthcare. I can give up chocolate, but not healthcare and things like that. So, but there is a lot of aspect and there is a lot of empathy and there is a lot of things, even in technology, that we have to bring in to make it humanly consumable. And then we had healthcare for a long time. I think, to me, the biggest change in digital transformation was in healthcare, where it went from being just, X and zeros and O and everything to being actually a human interface technology. And so I think, I think that was a huge contribution of the diverse workforce in healthcare, instead of just being data and recording and things like that and billing. There is a lot more into it. I think, Kim, you wanted to contribute on this, and remember, this is tech and women and gender diversity contribution.
Yes. I just had a quick point building on what Michelle and Laura both said, right? We're very focused on tech skills. And yes, the market is certainly very limiting, right? Michelle referenced she's often the only one, right? I've had the same situation. I think Laura said similar. And I think as we shift in terms of what skills we're looking for, we need to stop focusing so much on looking for people that have very specific technical skills and look at people that have cultural fit, right? Problem solving skills, communication skills, other things. You can train on tech. You can train somebody how to code. You can train other things, exactly as Laura was referring to. Training on communication and cultural fit, training on problem solving and thinking out of the box is much harder to do. Training on how to get something done within your company versus any other company can be very challenging. Versus the technical skills, the tech is the same no matter where you work. It's how you put it to use in solving your business problems. So I think we need to broaden our focus so that we can attract more women into these other areas, which is very similar to what Michelle and Laura were speaking about, because that's where they're going to come from.
What do you think, and maybe we can start with Shauna, one thing that one corporation should do, one thing that they should do to just bring a more diverse community in their workforce?
So I think it's all about making sure that companies have presence on diverse platforms. So for example, Power to Fly is a great one. I've been following it since its inception. It literally spearheads diversity and the importance of diverse, workforce throughout companies. I think that it should be communicated then within those companies as well. It's a great, again, way to network. They have, virtual sessions, and I'm not trying to promote them specifically, but I think that also a TLDP, so a talent leadership development program. Every company should have one and should consciously make an effort to ensure that they are onboarding those post-grad, again, this is for right after graduation. It is if you're not familiar with it, it's a technology, I think I already said it, technology development leadership program for post-grads to come in and learn about not just what they got the degree on, but specifically how business works, how people collaborate, the day-to-day, and again, focus on making sure that you get 50% females in addition to the male candidates for these programs as well. So I give you 2 examples.
That's awesome. Michelle and Wajeeha, because we hope that this webcast will be seen by everybody. And so somebody is probably, hopefully going to, Google Part to Fly and an example like that and include it in their, day-to-day working strategy. Who wants to go? Wajeeha, you want to go first?
I think that it's going to require investments in communities to ensure that we have a diverse population getting access to learning about technology and technology careers. So, a lot of us represent large organizations that, are involved in our communities. And I think it starts small on, identifying populations that are good to invest in. I solely agree with Shauna on the talent and development programs. I think myself benefited from it coming in, early postgraduate and getting the coaching needed to, apply my skill sets, but also learn the competencies of leadership.
So on that, Michelle, you're gonna get a startup on mentorship. The word of, I think is the way to build your network. But what's your suggestion and how you can, how you do it every day? Because we do it every day.
So I think it's a great question. And I don't think you ever grow out of needing or benefiting from having a mentor. I think a mentor may serve different purposes for you as you grow in your career. And I don't feel that, for me personally, probably the most influential mentors in my life were men, not necessarily women. However, I have intentionally tried to align with female senior leaders just to kind of get advice and may not be as close to them as some of the male mentors I've had on lessons they've learned trying to tread the path that I may be behind, right? And I think where mentors can really help are on some of the more obscure kinds of challenges you run into. And maybe going to your boss, there's politics involved and they can't give you a straight answer, or you really just want an outside perspective or view of how you might want to handle an issue, a person on your team that maybe you're struggling with, and just general direction on what may be next for you in your career. So I think always having a mentor is great. I think being a mentor is incredibly beneficial. I think it helps you build confidence yourself. And it's also one of the most rewarding feelings in the world, not just to manage people directly as part of your job, but also to feel like you lit a fire inside of someone's heart to try to follow a new path or encourage them when they're feeling down. So I think having a mentor and being a mentor can really be immensely rewarding in your career.
And on that note, Laura, does it have to be gender specific?
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be gender specific, and I agree with Michelle, but I also have a different lens I'm going to bring to this as well. I think it's important to have a mentor, but I think it's more important to have lifelong advocates. And so if you look at, there are circles that each one of us are in our company, in and outside of, but trying to get into different circles inside your company, sometimes that means whether that be a boss or a friend or someone on a different team that advocates for you to be a part of that. And, kind of behind closed doors, what happens that you have that. but I don't know that it needs to necessarily be a male or a female. I think it's someone who knows your talents and skills and bring those forward.
That's very important. I actually believe that we as a generation, we were very lucky because we had non-gender specific mentoring. But today I find that the younger female populations has a little bit of a bias on the gender specific. It is increasingly hard to convince them to say, you know, you've got to get the other side of the aisle point of view. So Kelley or Kim or anybody.
I agree with a lot of what I've heard. I think sometimes it's an individual decision, but I think sometimes it does help to have someone of your same gender to talk about certain issues that are more prevalent with women, childcare, pregnancy issues, or maybe even work-life balance. But I, like Laura and others, have had both male and female mentors. And I've appreciated both of them. Now, I've had more male mentors than female just because of the business that I'm in. But I think the importance of mentorship is really around developing individuals and being there to help them work through issues. I've seen women mentorship programs, and I think that's really good, and it can it can be empowering. It can also, I think, sometimes create a bit of a segregation. I think a mentorship program really should be for all, but I feel like there are times where gender specific just help, kind of fills a particular need. And so, so I just think there's those special instances where you're going to want to call out someone special, someone that you need as a mentor that has more alignment with you as far as work life or experience.
My suggestion is mentorship is a gift. Get it wherever you can and use it to your own need and learn how to do it. It is a little bit of a muscle that everybody has to develop, because again, there are a lot of things in the world, but as well, sometimes I say to my young mentee, girl, you gotta get my attention, just grab me anyway, because that will help you in your skill development too, because sometimes you gotta get in front of the line. And if you do front of the line with your mentor, it doesn't break anything. But if you don't learn how to, get in front of the line, it's a skill by itself. I think Kim and Michelle and Wajeeha, you had something to say about mentorship. I think it's such an important tool that I don't see a lot of women or anybody taking advantage. Kimberly, what's your point of view?
I agree with your point. It's a gift, and get it wherever you can. There are cases where different points of view, opposite points of view are better, right? And you want to, especially if you're trying to do a dry run on something, I would certainly rather have somebody throw all the obstacles at me offline so that I can work through the answers before we do it for real. So sometimes, depending on the situation, you want a mentor who has similar experiences to you. Perhaps a working mom, perhaps a working mom with kids going away to college and being an empty nester, perhaps a working mom with brand new kids, right? And how do you deal with that change? Because it is a big adjustment, let's face it. Other times you want the opposite. So I think the more you can stack your deck with people in different places, different companies, same company, different organizations within your company, same organization within your company, right? The diverse point of views, so that you can really have someone to tap into no matter what the situation is.
That's going to be my next podcast, Dry Run with Your Mentor. I like that idea. Michelle.
I mean, I guess the only thing I would add, to what I've already said about mentorship is I think you think about what you're trying to get out of the mentorship, and and make sure that you're sort of setting those goals up front with the mentor and they're in agreement with what that is. You shouldn't just be randomly showing up on occasion just to spill your guts about what happened for the day. Usually these are senior folks who have limited time, and so you want to make sure you look prepared walking in, and that they feel that you're being respectful, I think, of their time. I think the only other point I'd add is something that's not maybe an official mentorship, but something I do all the time with my network that I've built over a couple of decades of being in this industry, is you can have folks you can pick up the phone and call when you want to think about a new idea. Or, it doesn't have to be a formal mentoring relationship to really be able to learn things quickly and without having to fail by calling 3 or 4 people that have done what you're trying to do. So I think there's lots of opportunities to benefit from experienced people by building your network out and feeling like you're offering something like that back to them when they have a question and you're able to get on the phone and help them. Building that network of help really will get you farther faster.
One advice that you will give to your mentee to be or younger self or whatever, because it seems to be the thing that everybody picked on, and I think it's something that you can give back. So one advice, starting with Wajeeha.
What I would say, one advice is don't settle. And I'm I think I'm providing a millennial perspective here. Our workforces are so diverse today. We have multi-generation, obviously, multicultural, gender, etc. I think that there needs to be a higher expectation of alignment to organization values and commitment to that. And so I would tell young female leaders is to push for making sure your organization does allow, equal opportunities for leadership. I would say push the bar, don't settle.
Great advice. Laura.
There's lots of studies that talk about the gender pay gap, and I'm of the belief that the gender pay gap has to be with choosing the right partner. And so I would say select your right partner. There's also studies that say you become like the 5 people you're around the most. And so if you choose friends in and outside of the workplace that make you better, that help you bring a different perspective, there's positivity, optimism. And in choosing the partner, I have 3 really good, strong female leaders that they have their husbands are the stay-at-home dads. I have a sister whose husband is a stay-at-home dad, and they made that decision together as a couple. And whether that is then advocating for paternity pay and those types of things, that becomes a policy and advocacy. That's something that's further along in your future. But the one piece of advice, Siki, to bring that back is just selecting your partner, the right partner, really making that decision in a strong, diligent way, but also the women that or friends that you surround yourself with.
Great. Kelley.
Yeah, so those that know me, I'm pretty outspoken. And so really my advice is be confident and be assertive and let people know what you want and you need from them, because they can't always read your mind. So true story, several years ago, I was a manager at a big consulting organization, and I sat down with my counselor mentor, and I told him, I really want to work for that next level of promotion. And he looked at me, we developed a plan, and I did, he did set me on a right path, but he also looked at me and said, oh, thank you very much for telling me that. I didn't really know that's what you wanted. So don't assume that your supervisor or others are going to ask. Be assertive and let them know what it is that you want and you need, so that they can help make that happen for you.
Awesome. Great advice. Shauna.
So I would say the best advice I received was at 25 from a female manager, which I'm so happy to have had when I was a systems administrator at Merrill Lynch. Be inquisitive. So don't fake it till you make it, meaning feel empowered to ask questions so that you gain more information. So again, be vocal, be curious. I think what's interconnected to that is also give time for upskilling. Meaning, if you don't know about cybersecurity, make some time just to get some general knowledge if that's not your area in tech. Same thing with data lakes. So that's really going to help you, again, from a career path perspective, but also collaborate with your peers.
I tell you, curiosity is female, and it is a strength. It is a strength. Kimberly.
I think the advice that I would have is to prioritize networking and prioritize yourself. We often get so busy in the work and so busy in tasks and engagements at home and activities and all of the other things that what gets sacrificed is the networking and relationships, right? And it takes time to build that network. It takes time to join user communities. It takes time to speak at conferences. It takes time to really put yourself out there to build those relationships. But chances are your next role isn't going to be some random posting on LinkedIn or some other job board. Chances are your next role is going to be from a friend of a friend of a friend who helps to make that connection through your network. But if you don't prioritize it until the end, when now you're suddenly out of a job or now you're suddenly looking for a new job because you hate your new boss or whatever it may be, it's really hard to build on the fly. And if you don't prioritize it on the journey, you put yourself at a disadvantage.
Great advice. And we are all referenced to each other. So the more you get friends to know you, the more people can reference. Michelle.
I think I have to say I really agree with Kelley and Shauna on the confidence and speaking up. I think, early in my career, part of it might be that I'm an introvert. I just remember sitting in meetings and listening and having great ideas, but being so afraid if I said something, I might be wrong. Or maybe I had to be 110% right and was afraid to say anything. I find that now when I'm in meetings and I see people on the calls and they don't say anything, it kind of, it makes me think, why are you here if you're not going to participate, right? And there's so many good ideas that come up when I see folks who are confident enough to raise their hand, especially junior people. So I think that would be the advice, is don't be afraid to speak up. No one's going to tell you have a horrible idea and never to say anything again. And if nothing else, it shows you have initiative and that you're trying to participate and add value to the conversation. I think also in the tech world, I found it remarkable over the years to see how many male counterparts spoke up and they were wrong. and they never questioned themselves, and they never thought, I think they thought if they're about 50% there, they're going to go for it. So maybe they taught me that lesson, right? Is, you can have an opinion, be wrong. It's not the end of the world. I think it's just be an active participant, try to add value, feel like you're having fun and you're being involved in the problem solving process, and speak up, because you're going to stand out, especially early in your career, if you're willing to do so.